Welcome today to Gospel Doctrine with Darryl. We're part of the Search Isaiah team, helping Sunday school teachers learn how to use the Come Follow Me format for our lessons. I'd like to remind you that you can download a lesson at this location, and today's lesson is lesson number 38. Beside me, there is no Savior, so it's another discussion on the Savior's life. The study outline for you this time includes a lot more video than normal, and two of them come right from the manual itself. One comes from me discovering some research on my own that I think will help you. So first of all, the groups today are going to be a little bit different again. You know, they're different every time, and that mixes it up for the classroom, and that's okay. The scriptures you should read ahead of time are all of Isaiah 40 through 49. Now, this is a wonderful series. The temptation here is because the Book of Mormon has Isaiah 48 and 49 in 1 Nephi 20:21. You might think that that's what we should emphasize, but don't neglect all of this. Remember, it's a whole big box of chocolates, not just a little one. There's some chapters in Matthew and Exodus for you to study and comprehend or to contemplate. And I'd like to remind you that during the week, if you text members of your class about what you're studying, it'll help prompt them to take a deeper dive in the read. There are two talks, The Times in Which We Live by President Hinckley, and What Think Ye of Christ from Dallin Oaks. These are both really good talks for this lesson. I'd like to remind you that you can download this lesson outline at searchisaiah.org. Just click here and it will take you there. As we start this lesson today, the manual suggests that these statements, what think ye of Christ, what manner of men ought ye be, whom do you say that I, the Son of Man, am, whom say ye that I am, who is on the Lord's side, have ye received his image in your countenance, all on the whiteboard. But because I made slides, I went ahead and I almost always use slides in the classroom because it helps me drive the Come Follow Me format a little tighter. Our discussion groups today are going to have 5 or 6 people in them. A little bit longer study time. We're going to give you 20 minutes. The first group is going to study Isaiah teaches that the Savior is incomparable. And then the second group gets to describe his incomparable qualities. Lots of Isaiah there, so this is going to be some quick reading. Number 3, that group is going to read about Babylon and how it competes with the Savior for our devotion. And group 4 is the mission of Latter-day Israel. And I've asked Brother Hunter to add to this little search hack that I think helps us mark our scriptures, particularly because almost everyone in the ward is using a handheld device now.
So this search hack explained some differences between the manuscripts of Isaiah in Nephi verses 20 through 21 and Isaiah verses 48 through 49. And so Nephi here is quoting Isaiah, but there are differences in the manuscripts when he quotes Isaiah. And the hack tells you a little bit about where those differences came from. One came from a Joseph Smith translation of the Book of Mormon, and it was a one-word change. One came from Nephi, where he says that the house of Israel did not stay themselves upon the ground. I just want to share that search hack with the group so we can watch it together here. 1 Nephi chapters 20 through 21 is where the reading gets tough. Nephi quotes Isaiah 48 through 49, which reads more ambiguously because of the plethora of symbols Isaiah uses for subjects like Christ, his servant, and Israel. Why does Nephi quote from Isaiah for a full 2 chapters after settling in the Promised Land? He tells us in chapter 19, saying, "Remember the Lord thy Redeemer." Nephi reads Isaiah to his family so his posterity might remember Christ coming in 600 years and rely on him. He writes Isaiah so we might remember and rely on Christ thousands of years after his coming and gather the house of Israel.
You were sent to earth at this precise time, the most crucial time in the history of the world, to help gather Israel.
But when Nephi quotes Isaiah, there are key differences between their manuscripts. Let's explore the meaning of a few of these key differences by comparing 1 Nephi 20 through 21 side by side with Isaiah 48 through 49 in the King James Bible. In the beginning of Nephi 20, Isaiah defines the house of Israel as those who are come forth from the waters of Judah. The Book of Mormon version adds, or out of the waters of baptism. In this case, Joseph Smith added that phrase as prophetic clarification of what the waters of Judah means. We know this because the Book of Mormon translations did not include this phrase until the 1840 edition. Last time we highlighted references to Christ in red. This time use pink on Joseph's editions because it is close to the red of Christ and that it has righteous prophetic origin, and underline instead of highlight, denoting Joseph or Nephi is speaking these words instead of someone referring to them. In the next verse, Isaiah says the children of Israel do stay themselves upon the God of Israel. The Book of Mormon version says they do not stay themselves upon the God of Israel. Based on the context, Nephi's reading makes much more sense because the Lord chastises Israel for forgetting him. This discrepancy is most likely a scribe error passed into the King James Bible. Later in chapter 21, there's a bigger change. Nephi adds 48 words to verse 1, saying the house of Israel is broken off, driven out, and scattered abroad because of the wickedness of the pastors of my people. Nephi's additions seem to be a huge clarification for who the isles of people from afar are in Isaiah's version, providing us with a better understanding of the house of Israel. As you study, ask yourself, who made each change and what are they trying to tell us?
So, brothers and sisters, as instructors, it's important after each of the discussion groups, as this group has had some time together, that you get around, visit them, see what they're working on. This search hack could distract them because there are other things to do. But remember, every group this time has a video to listen to. And that's going to take a lot of time. And they might not feel like they want to actually share the video with the group instead of promote it for home evening or couple study later on, and that's fairly important to notice. Now, if you feel like those discussion groups are too big, then I'd suggest that you look at other discussion topics that are at the end, and I've put them up here on the screen. These other discussion topics are at the end of the lesson plan, and the first one is on symbols used by Isaiah. It's really quite fascinating to help people understand some of the symbolism. The second one is the definition of waiting on the Lord. And the last one is, but thou hast not called upon me. And if you added these three in to the other four, you'd have 7 discussion groups. Now, my classroom size tends to run between 35 and 42, and I can't predict that. So I often have one of these other discussion topics up my sleeve just in case. So I'm recommending to you that you always plan on a few more discussion groups than you need, and that you never ever get so married to your syllabus or your lesson manual that you feel defeated. Your job in the Come Follow Me format is to be a discussion facilitator. And whatever discussion emerges from any of the study groups is exactly right for your group. So I don't want you to worry about that at all. So as our conclusion comes up today, I'd like you to think back on how you've developed a love for the Savior and how you might share that with others. And we're going to listen as we leave today after our closing prayer to How Firm a Foundation, because we're finishing just a little bit early. And I'd like you to hear all of this hymn. And let's go ahead and have the closing prayer now, and then we'll go straight to the hymn.